What's going on everyone, Mike here. Welcome to another Symphony tutorial. Today we're going to talk about building an optimized widescreen. So let's navigate to page design and see how our beverage area looks right now. I'm going to open my transactions page. Then I'm going to set my aspect ratio to 16:9 to match the size of my widescreen workstations. And here in the drink section, we have non-alcoholic beverages, cocktails, beers, liquor, and mods. So somewhere here between beer and liquor, I would like to add my wine screen. Now we serve a lot of wines by the glass as well as bottles. So we will need to make a nicely optimized screen in order to make the servers and bartenders as efficient as possible to find the wines that they're looking for. The first thing that I'm gonna do is add a new tab item by clicking the hyperlink here. Now that I have my new tab, I'm gonna name it Wine. And I'm gonna use the little arrow keys here to move it between beer and liquor. And now that we have a blank wine screen, what I wanna do is I wanna make it look a little bit like my beer section. I want to have these buttons at the top that will switch between glasses of white wine, red wine, and rosés. And also I'm going to implement a search feature here in order to locate the bottles of wine by the bin number. So let's go into our wine section and start adding our buttons. I'm going to add a new button here, make it a little bit smaller. And then this is going to be the button that's going to show me my glass of white wine. And this button will actually be a function. And because I'm going to use dynamic slus to change what items will be showed underneath, this is actually going to be a visual state. So here in the search bar, I just enter VIS and I find the function called visual state. And click OK. Now each of these visual states will require an argument which we will enter next. For now, since this is going to be the button for my white wines, I would like to change the color and actually make it white. So we have this standard color here which is actually white. And also I would like to increase the font a little bit so that I can see it a little bit better. To do this, I go to the advanced section, check the box next to the font size, and increase it from 14 to about 26. That should be a nice visible font. Next, I'm gonna actually copy this button. So I just right click on it and select copy, right click again and select paste. And I got an identical copy of it. And this I'm gonna use for my glass of red wine. Now all I have to do is change the color to a nice red. So I will choose this crimson color. That looks good. Next, I'm gonna copy it once more and also paste it. And this is gonna be my rosés. So then I'm gonna change the color to this nice pink. And finally, I'm gonna paste one more button in order to make my search feature. So this is gonna be bottle of wine. Now notice they don't fit exactly, so I need to make them a little bit bigger. So I'll move this one a little bit to the right and I'll do the same with all the other ones. And then I can select them all at the same time and then just to drag and drop a little bit to the right. So now they take up the entire screen. I'm also gonna change the color of this and I'll select this nice amber color. So when our servers and bartenders hit this key, then underneath we will have all of the white wines by the glass, the red wines by the glass, rosés and champagnes, and finally this will be a search feature. Now because this will be a search feature, we will have to change the function. And I'm gonna click my little arrow again, and I'm gonna look for order, and then if I enter order, I see my results here on the right. So I can use an order by menu item name number 1, 2, and 3. If you recall from when we were programming menu items, we had 3 names for each menu item. Now, I don't want to use name 1 because all of my menu items actually have name 1, including food items. So when I'm searching for my wine, I would only like to see wines. And for us, we use name 2 for the kitchen printers. So again, my regular menu items will also have a name 2, but none of my items actually use name 3. So name 3 will be unique, and I'm only gonna add name 3 for wines. So that's what I'm gonna use for my search. And now that I have all of my buttons at the top, all I need to do is add the screen lookup. To do this, I'm gonna go here to Other, Sales Slu. And I get this little block. I'm gonna leave one box as a space, and then I'm gonna extend this sales Slu all the way to the edge. Now, this is a regular menu item Slu. So what I wanna do first is change it from a regular Slu to a dynamic Slu. So that way, instead of just having one value, it can take up to 3 values, which is what we want for our 3 places here. And the values will populate here. We're gonna add this value in just a second since we need a number first. But before we do that, what I'm gonna go here to the layout and I'm gonna take a look at my grid. So this is organized in a grid. We can also make it a tabbed grid. So if we want to make it a tab, we just add this little tabs on the side. I'm not gonna use that. I'm just gonna leave it as a grid. It is organized horizontally, so the menu items appear here from left to right. You can also change it to be vertical, so they can go up and down. And it is a 5 by 5, so 5 by 5, which is perfect. I think the size is fine. I'll also check the auto paging keys. So you see we have page up, page down here, which is fine. I do not want the home and end keys. I don't think those are going to be necessary and they just take up 2 places. The sort, I would prefer it to be alphanumeric, so they're just going to be alphabetized. And I would like to use the sort priority. This key here is very important because we're going to use the sort priority to change a couple of the colors. So make sure you check that box. Next, I'm going to move to the style section. And I have here my button style. I can change it to this aquamarine color just so that it matches the rest of my menu items here. And then also I can change the style of the navigation buttons and I'll change it to this gunmetal again so that it matches the rest of my slus. Now we also have all of these priority slus 1 through 10. And these priority slus is what we're gonna use to make this Slu change color based on which key we press at the top. Now, these keys at the top, the glass of white wine, red wine, and rosé, are not actually highlighted when they are pressed. So once I press this key, I do not know which one is pressed at a glance. It's just a limitation that the Symphony system has. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a visual cue in the screen lookup here so we know we are looking at white wines, reds, or rosés. So I would want to say for priorities 1 and 2, I would like this screen lookup to be white. So I'm going to choose standard and standard once more. For priorities 3 and 4, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change both of these to this crimson color. And finally, for 5 and 6, I'm going to choose my pink color. And what I'm going to do is all of my glasses of white wine, the menu items themselves, I'm gonna assign them priority 1 or 2, depending on how relevant they're gonna be. That's why I chose 2 of them. Sometimes I might want some of them to be further up than others, so I'm giving myself 2 positions for that. My glasses of red wine, I'm gonna assign them priority 3 or 4. And for my rosés and champagnes, I'm going to assign them 5 and 6. That will make the screen lookup change color as I'm pressing these buttons at the top. The last thing that I'm going to do before I go ahead and save is just increase the font color of this screen lookup a little bit. Since I have such nice big buttons, but the text itself is pretty small. So here in the layout section, we can click on font size and we can change it to something like 22. That will make them a lot easier to read for our servers and bartenders. Now that our design is ready, we need to make sure to add the changing Slu functionality as well. If you notice here, if I move back to the data section, we have these visual states connected to screen lookup values, but we don't have any values yet. So in order to assign these, we need to know what screen lookup values we have assigned for glass of white wine, red wine, and rosé. To do this, we're going to go back to the home page, into the descriptors tab, into menu item screen lookups. And I'm going to scroll down and I can see I already have assigned for glass of white wine, red wine, and rosé and champagne 40, 41, and 42. If you do not have these assigned, just find an empty block and go ahead and enter the names here. And keep in mind the numbers attached to them. So my whites are 40, reds are 41, and then rosé and champagne are 42. So I'm going to go back to page design, and for my glass of white wine, I'm going to enter the argument 40. For my glass of red wine, I'm going to enter 41. And for rosé, I'm going to enter 42. Now that these buttons know which argument to activate, I need to tell my Slu, my dynamic Slu here, what to do with that argument. So when one of this button, for example, the glass of white wine is pushed, then an argument of 40 is assigned. But right now, my screen lookup does not know what to do with that argument. So I'm going to say, when you receive the argument 40, go ahead and display Slu number 40. So I'm going to scroll down to the screen lookup here. And then when you receive the argument 41, go ahead and display Slu 41. When you receive argument 42, then display Slu 42. So that's the way we link these buttons to the screen lookup itself when we use dynamic Slus. When this button is pressed, it will display argument 40, which will tell this screen lookup to show us Slu number 40 glass of white wine, and so on. Now that we are ready with the programming, we'll go ahead and save. And that's pretty much everything we had to do in page design. So I can go ahead and close the module. And I'm going to close this screen lookup as well. Next, we need to configure the menu items themselves. I'm going to go ahead and open menu item maintenance and populate my database. Now, when I hit the search, I see all of my menu items, including food and everything else. So what I would like to do is only show my wines. So I'm going to do a search. And in order to do a search, you can do a Control F on your keyboard for the shortcut. Or you can use the binoculars here at the top, which will bring up this find item. So in the find, I'm going to select a name. So I'm looking for a name and I'm going to enter wine. Since I'm looking for my wines, I'm just going to hit find next. And it located my wine section. So as you can see, my wine section is located in the 40,000 section. So my beers were in 36,000 and they ended here. And now at the 40,000 section, my wines begin. So in order to filter this page so I don't see anything else, what I'm going to do, I'm going to enter here where it says object number in range. I'm going to enter 40,000 up to 49,999. So I know that in the 40,000 section, I have all of my wines. And this is not absolutely necessary. I just do this to make life a little bit easier. You can go ahead and do that, or you can just view the entire database if that's easier for you. So now that I hit search, I can see that I have only my wines. I don't have to deal with food items, liquors, or anything else. Now, for my white wines, remember I will have to assign them priorities 1 and 2 in order to make that screen lookup appear white. So in order to assign Slu priorities, I go to the definition record section And if we scroll a little bit to the right, we can see the screen lookup. So this is our Slu, which is number 40. This is the Slu that we assigned earlier. And we also have this Slu sort priority. So this is where we have to assign the screen lookup priority. So I'm gonna assign all of my glasses of white wine priority 1. So my glasses of white wine begin here at 40,000 and end here at 41,000. So this is where my red wines begin. So you can enter this one by one if you would like. I will use a quick shortcut. I will use F3, so I have my first item that I entered. So I entered 1 on the first glass of wine. So I'm gonna hit F3 on my keyboard. And what that F3 did is copy this value and it moved the cursor 1 space down. Next, I'm gonna hit F4, and what that will do is it's gonna paste the value that I just copied and again move it 1 space down. So now all I have to do is just hit F4 in sequence until I reach this area here. So I have to make sure I don't go over. So we have 2 more and that's it. I assign Slu priority 1 to all of my glasses of white wine. If you have some top sellers of white wine, then you might want to assign Slu priority 1 to those and assign Slu priority 2 to the rest of the white wines. So that will make sure that the first ones that are going to appear at the top are going to be best sellers, and then the other ones are going to be just regular white wines. That's why I chose to have 1 and 2 for white wines and then 3 and 4 for reds. So I'm going to assign priority 3 for my first glass of red wine. And I'm going to hit F3 again on my keyboard and then hit F4 all the way down here where my glass of rosé and champagne begin. So there's quite a few of these. I'm going to continue hitting F4. You can also hold it down, by the way, but make sure you don't go too much. So I have 2 more and that's it. So now I have my glasses of rosé, which I'm going to assign. So we have 3 and 4 for reds. So then I'm going to assign my rosé to 5. And then I'm going to copy this all the way down. And then my champagnes, I'm gonna actually assign them to 6. So I see my glasses of rosé first and then my glasses of champagne. And again, using F3, F4 to make sure I assign all of them all the way down to my bottles. So now I have priorities assigned to all of my glasses of wine and I can go ahead and save. Now that we are done with the glasses of wine, let's go ahead and move on to the bottles. Now, we have a lot of bottles of wine, so we cannot put all of these on a screen lookup because the servers and bartenders will just spend ages looking through them. So I'm going to use a different tactic for bottles to make them faster and more efficient. If you don't have a lot of bottles like we do, if you just have, let's say, 10, 15, 20 of them, then you should assign them to screen lookups just like we did with the glasses of wine, and then that will be enough. But since we have too many of them, we're actually going to use that search feature we implemented in page design. So if we take a look at our wines here, we have all of these bottles of wine. They start here and they go all the way down. This is the first name. So this is what I was talking about when I was saying they have a first name, a second name, and a third name. Everybody in the menu item database will have a first name, including food items, regular beverages and everything else. So we don't want to use our wine search using first name because we're going to see a lot of values that are not going to be valid for us. Second name is reserved in our situation for the kitchen printers and some bar printers in some cases. So if we have to add more detail regarding a menu item, we usually add it in the second name. So what I'm going to do is scroll all the way to the right, and here we can see third name. So this third name is not used by any of our menu items. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it for my wine items. So I'm just going to expand this column a little bit to make sure that I can select the entire name, and starting here with my bottle of 2004, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy it, and then I'm gonna paste this value in the third name, and then do the same for the second one. Select it all, paste it here. I use Control C, Control V on my keyboard, which makes the process a little bit faster, but unfortunately there is no easy way to do this process. It's just a manual process, and you'll have to go through them one by one and copy the names. So I'm gonna continue doing this, and we'll take a look at when we're done. Okay, so now that I've copied my first name into my third name for all of my bottles, I went ahead and did all of them. What we can do now is we can search by either the name of the wine, or we can search by the bin number. We like to add the bin number at the beginning of the name because of this search, and because it makes it a little bit easier to locate in our wine room. So we can go ahead and close menu item maintenance, and next we'll go to a workstation and see how everything looks. Okay, so now that we are at one of our workstations, the first thing that I'm gonna do is click a quick update to make sure the information is downloaded, and then I'm gonna sign in and begin a fast transaction. Next, I'm gonna move to my drinks area and go to the wine screen that we just built. And notice we have our 4 buttons at the top. So we have our glass of white wines, and we have one full page, and then we can go page down, and then we have a couple more. If you have too many pages, you can look at increasing the size of this grid. If you remember, when we were looking at page design, we said it's a 5 by 5. I think 2 pages is good, it's acceptable to have. If you have too many, again, just increase that grid to 6 by 6 or 7 by 7, but don't go too big. Let's take a look at our glass of red wines. So as soon as we hit this key, because all of the red wines have that Slu priority of 3, then all of them will turn color. And this is what I was talking about. If you notice, the button at the top doesn't have any visual cue that it is actually pressed. But because the whole page is white, we know these are all white wines. And then the same with the red. When I press it, there's no way for me to tell that this is actually the one that's highlighted, but the whole screen is red, so that's very obvious. And then for rosés, the same thing. I click my rosé and champagne, then all of them are here. Rosés at the top, champagne right underneath. Now, let's test our bottle of wine search feature. So as soon as I push this key, you see we have this menu item lookup screen. So now I can actually use one of my bin numbers, 20011, and I found my wine here. Or I can actually look for the name of an item. So I'm looking for Krug. We have our 2 champagnes here. So I can actually select the one I want and then click OK, and that item will be ordered. So this is what I found to be the best and most efficient way to program our wine screen. Let me know what you think about this programming in the comments below, or if you have any suggestions on how I can improve it. If you are interested in more Symphony tutorials, we have created an entire platform that will teach you everything you need to know in order to maintain your Oracle Micros Simphony POS system. You can also ask for help from our programming team. You can access everything by visiting simsupport.online. And as a special thank you, I am also including a coupon code for you. You can find all the details in the description below. Leave a like if you found this helpful and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.